Hey there, and welcome to Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you've ever tried to answer emails with a toddler pulling at your sleeve, or you wondered how to grow your business while chasing after your dreams, and maybe your kids too, you're in the right place. Every week, we'll get real about wins, messes, and all those magical moments in between, sharing practical tips, honest stories, and the laughs that keep us going. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Mariah Murdoch, owner and founder of Infinite Exec, and you're in the right place if you're an aspiring or thriving mompreneur who's ready for real talk and all things babies, business, and boundaries. And today I am joined by the wonderful Kate, who's the founder of Society of Working Moms. We're going to talk about that. And this episode is all about building supportive communities for working moms because, this is what Kate does. And this is also a very important piece no matter what you do, whether that's in business or in life. You need to be able to plug in and find your tribe. So, Kate, welcome to the Mompreneurs Making Moves podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Emery. I'm so excited to be one of the first episodes, I think, of your new
Yes.
podcast. Yeah, I'm honored.
Yes. No, we're so honored to have you. And we know that you're the mom of two girls and you've made the most of your communications and producing experience to bring together working moms of all ages and stages. And so we're super excited to have you. You're perfect for this podcast. So first, I really want to dive in. Tell us a little bit about you, anything and everything you want to share.
Okay. Yeah, you did a great high-level overview. My background is in communications. I've been consulting for like 8-ish years, a little more than 8 years. And so as consulting goes, you have ups and downs, and the seasons are all different. And so I had a downturn in client work and had just terminated a client contract where I was producing online events. And I was like, well, I love producing events. I love using my journalism background and my communication skills and my project management skills. So I was like, what if I could just do that for my own clients, my own audience? But I didn't have an audience. So I was like, who would my people be? And I was like, well, working moms, obviously. So at that point, I was not really vocal about being a working mom because, as I'm sure many listeners can relate, it's a little different when you're your own entrepreneur and you're building a business around being a working mom, as I am right now. But back then, I was very much concerned with keeping that separation and making sure that clients did not think that I couldn't handle a project because I had young kids who are sometimes at home. And so, yeah, I put out a survey on LinkedIn just saying, I am pretty lonely. I know there's a lot of working moms out there and here on LinkedIn, and I just don't hear a lot about it. This was, again, a year and a half ago. So I think it's a combination of more people are talking about it, but also my algorithm is very skewed towards working parenthood now. But yeah, I just put out that initial survey and just said, who else is lonely? If I built something, would you come? And from there, started out with about 40 beta testers in my little baby Slack community. And yeah, 18 months later, still some of those same members are still our biggest champions and biggest supporters of the group. And yeah, it's just growing. And the more the merrier, the more mom power behind all of us, the better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And I really want you to take a quick minute and just talk about what you mentioned when you said there's a little bit of a stigma around being a working mom at home with littles and still being able to get things done. Because I know I feel that. And I know that my clients also sometimes have this hesitation to even approach me with work because they're like, well, she just kind of had a baby, or she just has a little one running around or not running around yet, needs her full attention. I don't know how much I can give her or not give her. Talk to that piece, and what advice do you have for, just being in that season?
Yeah. Um, it's hard because it's easy to say don't talk about it, keep it a clear separation. That's none of their business. But I have found that my best client relationships are actually the ones where I am super open. And since I've, when you birth children, you birth new versions of yourself each time. And I feel like when I think of my like business owner self 4 years ago or 5 years ago, pre-pregnancy versus now, I feel like I am much more like confident, and I also know that there's a lot of fish in the sea. So if a client doesn't like working with a mom for whatever preconceived notions they have, founded or unfounded, they might have their own experience of being a working mom and being like, I could never have gotten stuff done if my kids were at home. Or they have no experience and they're just right off working moms as like they're too busy. There's no way that they'll be able to like meet my needs. So yeah, I think this is a roundabout way of saying I it's very much like a case by case thing. But my biggest champion and my favorite client ever is actually not a mom. She is a woman, but she never had kids herself, but has always been a really great advocate and champion of her teammates who are working moms and working parents in general. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's also, you mentioned like not having the children running around yet, like needing full attention. I'm like, it's easy when they're not mobile. So I feel like if you want to hire a working mom and she's like freshly postpartum, like they're napping all the time, like not that it's easy by any means, but like I feel like if you haven't been through that, you don't know. And then like once they're like crawling and walking and getting into things, then it's when it's a little harder, but it's still, if you're hiring someone to do a job, you have to go in with a certain level of trust that they're going to be able to execute. So yeah, I don't know if that
Yeah. That
is
is so funny
helpful.
because I have a almost 5 month old at this point, and so he's not running around yet, and this is my first, so I don't know what it's like to go through the stages and ages yet. But when you're telling me that it's easier at this, right? I'm thinking, how? Like, there's so much I didn't even know that I'm learning. It's a huge learning curve, and then to have business on top of that. Like, what do you mean this is the easy stage? And
Well, everyone's different. Every child is different. This was my children were very willing to just be on their backs on a play mat while I
mm,
worked.
okay,
Um,
it's awesome.
and yeah, I will say, so I had the first, my first with me home for the first 2 years, and that was, yeah, not easy by any means. And then when the second came, I thought, well, it went so well with the first to have her at home, so I'll just have both at home with me.
Mhm.
And that was, for me personally, really hard, not doable. I was also solo parenting a lot of that time because my husband was away a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think, I could have gotten more clever as far as bringing in help more strategically, but there were so many daycares in the area, and so I did end up doing daycare for the first after the second was born. So when she was 2, she started daycare, and now they're both, they're 4 and 2, and they're both in daycare full time. I'm expecting another, and I would like to keep him home for the first year, just because I am pumped out from my first. Like I exclusively pumped with her for the first few
Okay.
months,
Yeah.
and I am like, if you know, you know. That is not for
Yes.
the faint of heart, and I
Yeah.
would never like to pump if possible. Um, I mean, there's other options too. I also was very reliant in the later of the first years of the, sorry, in the first with the first child, in the later months of that first year, I was like full fully on board the formula train, did all of the combo feeding with everything. So very supportive of all modes of feeding your baby, but I do really love when it when it works, if it
Yeah.
works, the whole breastfeeding experience. So
Yeah, no, that those are really important topics actually, because I know when I came out of my first, obviously, labor, it was extremely exhausting and it didn't go exactly as planned. I did have a home unmedicated birth, but there were, it was a long birth and it was hard and I was exhausted. So by the time they were trying to teach me how to breastfeed, I was like, I've got nothing. And I
Yeah.
almost lost my milk supply because I just was out. I was exhausted. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to pump so I can keep this supply going. And so now, for the most part, I do exclusively pump. So I know what you're talking about. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, the way it cuts into your day and it becomes a part of your life. It is your life.
Yeah.
It's not just a part. It like is like this is what you do. It's a really real thing. But also, I felt like, am I a failure because I didn't learn how to breastfeed? Everyone I talked to was breastfeeding, so they were like, "Well, of course I breastfed," and that was it. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." I never met anyone really who was exclusively pumping, and so I was thinking, "Wow, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me." And here's the thing, we did latch, like we did do some breastfeeding, but for the most part, just with my busy schedule and everything I have going on, it's pumping for now. And that's what works really well. So he's still getting my milk, but it just comes a different way. And
Yeah.
so we're not failures if we're learning how to feed in different ways, even if we use
Yeah.
formula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
There's
then,
there's
sorry, go
you're
ahead.
everyone's doing a great job. But hats off to you because yeah, I know that the pumping route is it can be hard. But and I didn't know anything about pumping. I didn't know EP exclusive pumping was a thing. I happened to I posted something on my Instagram story, which was like the precursor to the Slack community.
Okay.
Except though, like everyone on Instagram is just like, out of my, you know, small followership, only this amount of people care or know anything about like, you know, feeding a child. And so I was I was an oversharer, and so I would like just put, you're tired, you're feeding all the time. And so I would like put it on my Instagram story, and someone reached out and said, "Oh, yeah, I exclusively pumped with both of my kids. Feel free to reach out." And I was like, "What is this phrase?" And so, yeah, I feel like community is great. And if you're finding that on Instagram, great. If you're finding that on LinkedIn, great. But what I love about something like the Society of Working Moms is people know that that's what they're signing up for. And even more so, there's so many wonderful free apps and communities for moms and for working moms, I'm sure. But like something about a paid community is like you're really you're committing to showing up in a certain way that like you're agreeing to the group norms, and our group norms are very much about like there's no right or wrong way to do this. Like we're all just moms supporting moms, and so if you have strong feelings about exclusive like breastfeeding, just know that this is not the forum. Like someone's saying I'm struggling with this, and so it's not the place to be. You should really keep trying. Because I heard that from other people, and it was really hard to hear that. You know, even in those first 2 weeks, which feel like a decade, like when you're not sleeping and your hormones are like this, like a couple days or a couple hours just feel like an eternity. And yeah, it's hard to hear other people's opinions. And so
Yeah.
the more you
People,
can protect that by
people
curating a community, the better.
That yeah, I love that because talk to me about how do you build a community virtually? Because usually we're people, right? Like in person, we like to
Mhm.
see each other, eye contact, feel that energy. But when we're virtual, there is a little bit of a limitation there. However, in the sense of being able to connect with so many people that you would have never been able to, that limitation is limitless. So talk to me about how do you create community in a virtual space and what really is community?
Oh, well, the what really is community is like it's whatever you want it to be. It can be a text with one friend who's going through something similar. It can be your extended family on a WhatsApp thread. It can be people getting together, in real life every month for meals. It can be a Slack community. It can be any number of things. So the thing I always say is like your people are out there, so you just need to know how to go find them and where to go find them. You might need to bring them together, which community building is not for the faint of heart, although it's been the best, my favorite project that I've ever worked on. But yeah, you might need to do some work to find your people. As far as building online communities, I think there's a lot of really great benefits. I call it an online first community because the idea is that it would scale, and it does have kind of informal regional chapters. We have channels inside of the community that are geo-specific. Although at 160 members, there's no one hub that is like big enough to really support like a chapter, I would say. So there's been informal gatherings that are happening in person, but I would love it to be that you're able to find the async support online. So middle of the night feeding, your in real life village isn't necessarily going to be able to rally around you, but you might be able to go on your phone and just say, oh my gosh, here's what's on my mind, or here's the problem that here's why I'm up in the middle of the night. So I think that async feature of online communities is really important. And then there's also this idea of like having a third space that is not like we're all kind of relative strangers, right? So there is a certain amount of freedom you have to be really vulnerable because you're not like, oh, this is like my neighbor is gonna like, think of me a different way, or like my friend is gonna like think I'm needy or whatever. So it's, I don't know, there's a really special thing about having this larger network that is not your best friends. Like I'm not saying you can replace your best friends with a Slack community. I'm not advocating for that at all, but I think it's a both and sort of thing. Like you want to have the virtual village and the real life village, ideally, if you can. I will say, when I started it, I knew I was moving up to northern Minnesota, which is it's remote, and so I knew that I would have fewer professional moms around me. There are certainly working moms, but it's very like tourism and industry focused up here. And so I was, greedily building for what I knew I would need a couple years out, is like more of this like support, like a professional network, because it's part like support group for moms and it's part professional network for like working moms. And so I did know that I would be missing that once I moved out of a city center.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people always say community, it's like a buzzword, you know?
Yeah.
Find your tribe, get your community. But I think that you bring up a really good point when it comes to community. It's whatever you technically want it to be. It doesn't have to be this whole, you have 500 friends on Facebook, and that's not community either, right? Not just because you have 500 friends. Community doesn't mean that you have to take girl trips. I've seen that a lot on social media. And don't get me wrong, it looks magical. But moms don't usually have that much time or coverage to be able to do something like that. And even
Mm-hmm.
if they did, like to be away from their kids that long, it's just not feasible as a mom, you know? And so I think that the way maybe we think of community and finding ways to have recreation are different, right? That's a different definition for us as working moms than
Mm-hmm.
a regular mom or a mom who has a nanny, who's super rich. Because those are different situations as well. But I'm talking about the regular working mom just trying
Yeah.
to get by in today's day and age and grow and be supportive, but also support herself, and trying to find that
Yeah.
that space. So one thing I would love to hear is what is a testimonial or a powerful story that you could think of that resulted out of being a part of Working Moms Society?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to double dip because I literally just told this story on a different podcast. But I think one of my favorite examples ever is, and this was maybe like, a couple months ago, a mom went for a run. And I don't remember, we have, Slack is separated out. You create channels for different channels of conversation. Um, and so we have a shame-free channel, and then we have a wins and gratitude channel. And everyone is automatically put in both of those because I wanted to be really intentional about making it not just a place where you're sharing the wins and gratitudes, but you're also like, oh, here's this thing that I would otherwise just be like feeling quiet shame about, but I'm just going to share it publicly here with all of you. So yeah, I do not remember which channel this was in, although both would be totally fine. But the mom posted like, hey, good news. I just did my first mile run postpartum. But the bad news is I peed my pants. And she like posted a picture of her like wet pants. And it was just like the
Aww.
amount of love, like the cry laughing emojis, just like, girl, yes, we are there with you. We have been there. We will be there again. Like, here's what helped me. Like, not unsolicited advice, but just like, okay, thank you for keeping it real, but also like real talk, pelvic floor therapy changed my life. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that, like, the idea of being able to share something that, like, I said I was an oversharer earlier. I wouldn't even put that on my Instagram, like on my close friend story, probably. So I love that this badass, like business owning woman is like out there with incontinence, like so many of us are. Like it just is so validating, but also, yeah, I don't know, just it's such um, it's just a very generous thing to share that with a group of, again, relative strangers. And it just sets that tone for other people. This is like a long-term member. She's been in the group since pretty much day one. And so I really do rely on other people kind of carrying the torch and making sure that the tone is that, like exactly that amount of like vulnerability and resulting support. So that's, I think I'll just be like referring to that as my favorite story
You
forever.
know, that is actually really interesting though, because it brings up this idea of the boss mom, ambitious, taking initiative, making changes, making moves, if you will, for the podcast name,
Yeah.
but at the same time, being so fragile
Mm-hmm.
and reliant on support and trying to learn. You know, you have a mom that's an expert in business or in growing and learning, but then at the same time, you have this mom who is like, at the drop of a hat could just be in tears.
Mm-hmm.
And then not wanting to appear weak because in business she has to be strong. But when it comes to her family and to taking care of kids and doing all the things, it's hard. And if you get really vulnerable, you've got to extend grace to yourself. So it's really interesting because that brings up this idea of being a working mom in today's day and age means you're strong, you're ambitious, you take initiative, and you make change. You help change the world, but you're also very vulnerable, very fragile. And you also need to take care of yourself because if you don't, burnout could be around the corner and other things, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's an interesting idea that you could be both. You can be strong and fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And you can know it all in business, but it's a huge learning curve with your kids
Yeah.
constantly, right? It's at the same time. That's being a mompreneur.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
And that, like, yes, you can know it all in business, but I think what I love about our members is I think there's a real commitment to like showing up and learning, like whether it's going to weekly group coaching or doing our book club and reading and discussing the books. It's a lot of nonfiction books, although I think maybe for 2026 we'll change it up because I just did a little informal poll inside of the book club channel yesterday, and people were like really like rallying for fiction. I was like, okay, like we can start reading more fiction. Um, but yeah, just this idea of like we're all figuring it out together. Like none of us are perfect in work or in motherhood, but the whole point is like that vulnerability and that willingness and desire to be better versions of ourselves. So yeah, and I think I mean, we do have weekly group coaching. I employ or contract with a head of coaching who then oversees everything,
Awesome.
um, Jess Ringenberg, and that is such a, I mean, to toot my own horn, such a cool aspect of Society Working Moms because um, it's a really affordable way to get to get coaching. But it really does like permeate throughout. Like even if you're not attending group coaching, it does set the tone for like the larger group of like we're gentle with ourselves, we're gentle with each other, like we're all just in it together and like, you know, here for a virtual hug.
Yeah, and really quickly speak to the benefits of joining the Society of Working Moms. What do we get when we join?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, it is a paid community, so it's
Hmm.
29 a month or 290 a year or 75 for a quarter. Um, and what you get is just this like I think the real bread and butter is this async community, and you might say, why would I pay for that? Because there's Reddit or there's Facebook or there's my Instagram like story. um, but the added benefit is just that there's this real network effect. If you're a business owner, which not every, it's probably about half, maybe a little lesser, half, sorry, maybe a little less than half are business owners, but there's like a business owners channel. And so people are hiring within the group. So there's like our head of coaching, Jess, calls it the mom economy, the Society Working Moms mom economy. So that's a real benefit. The group coaching, again, cannot find 4 group coaching sessions for $29 anywhere. And so I think if you're interested in trying out group coaching with working moms, Society Working Moms is the place to do that. So yes, group coaching, Society Working Moms makes it highly, highly, highly affordable to get coaching with other moms who are in it with you, or maybe just a few steps ahead, a few steps behind. Um, and then the other programming, I mean, we do a lot that is free and open to the public. So you don't have to be a member to come to our speed networking, for example, but it's super fun to connect with people who you're seeing in Slack, but then be able to like have a one-on-one conversation with them through our networking events. And then there's, yeah, just programming the book club. We do a lot of workshops or ask the expert sort of sessions. So this is not my full-time job technically, but it could be a full-time job. There's so much programming that we could do and that we do, several times a month we'll have experts in. So we just did our author chat for the end of our Q3 book club, which is all about mental health and puberty in the 6 through 12 years. We have an upcoming session coming up on how to discuss the mental load with your partner. We've got another session coming up on estate planning. So it really like runs the gamut. And then we have member-led sessions. So that gives members a chance to test out a new offer or just hone their presentation skills in a safe environment. So they can either choose to have it to be members only or open to the public. If it's open to the public, I put a little more, promotional muscle behind it. But maybe they're just interested in trying out a new PowerPoint alternative. And so they're like, I want to try out, what is it? Like Beautiful.ai is like the new AI slides or whatever. So someone might say, I just want to try out this new product. So I'm going to do a session on like tarot. And it's not, necessarily working moms related, but it's like, it's a special interest they have and something that other people might be interested in. So, the member-led sessions are some of my favorite, just to see people talk about their expertise, whether it's something work-related or just a special interest.
Yeah, and to give them that space to have a voice and to share and to connect is, obviously what community is all about. Okay, one of our last questions is going to be, what would you say to the mom who is yearning for connection and feels isolated and overwhelmed, and she's trying to bridge the gap?
I would just say, been there. A lot of women have been there. You might not hear about it because we are like told that we must do it all and do it with a smile and this is the life you chose. So why would you, complain about it? But I would say it's okay to recognize that this chapter of life is hard. What makes it less hard is to find people to talk about it with. So yeah, again, that can look any number of ways, but just finding the people who will give it to you straight and let you like speak your truth is so, so valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, just finding your voice.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're really in the thick of it to get out of it sometimes, but
yeah. So it's okay to be in that place.
yes.
It's okay. You don't have to immediately fix it, although just keep in mind that there is room for it to be remedied, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's not immediately or how you think it should be, it's not impossible to find community and connection, and it's okay if you don't immediately have it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's really good. Okay, and where can we find you? And where can we find the Society of Working Moms? How do we sign up?
Yes. The Society of Working Moms website is just www.working-moms.com. So there's more information there. I'm happy to share a promo code with listeners of your podcast if we want to
Yes,
put it
we'd
in the
love
show
that.
notes or something.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then, like we're most active on LinkedIn. So we do have an Instagram page, but it's, right now it's more aspirational than
Hey,
I,
well,
I secured the handle, but I don't post there very much. But LinkedIn, we're much more active, and that's where our members are active. So then, we'll share out things that they share as well. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Kate Westlund Tovsen, and if you search
perfect.
Society Working Moms, you can find the group too.
Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you, Kate, so much for being on and for speaking to community and just the rawness of being a mom, whether working or not, and giving us hope that we are not alone because we do need that reminder, and we also need that reminder that we're doing a good job. So thank you
Yes.
for breathing life into that message for us. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us today on Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you found a little encouragement or a fresh idea, or you just felt seen, I'd love for you to subscribe and share this with your mompreneur friends. And remember that every small step you take in your business and in your life matters, and you're absolutely not alone on this journey. So keep showing up, keep making moves, and don't forget to take care of yourself too. And we'll see you next time on Mompreneurs Making Moves.